Members of the Bahamas Electrical Workers Union say they are outraged over what they call a blatant disregard the executive chairman of BEC, Leslie Miller, has for the terms and conditions of employment outlined in the industrial agreement, which they feel should be discussed, consulted on, negotiated, and agreed to by the union, the corporation, or the government before any changes are made to scheduling and rostering of staff. That has not happened. Today, some of those electrical workers held a press conference at the Big Pond parking lot with their union leaders to discuss this and other issues. But as Irate BEC tells us, this news is not sitting well with BEC's executive chairman.
President of the Bahamas Electrical Workers Union, Stefano Green, says last week management and the union met at the negotiating table and agreed to discuss the proposed rostering and shift system for hundreds of employees, but no amicable agreement was made. But much to his surprise, Green claims executive chairman Leslie Miller violated the industrial agreement by changing the rosters, and now Green is calling on the government to intervene.
The government advised us that they will speak to Mr. Miller and that good industrial harmony would exist in BEC. It appears that Mr. Miller isn't taking the government's word, isn't taking the Deputy Prime Minister's word or the Prime Minister's word, and is not adhering to their instructions. And so yes, we will be going back to the Deputy Prime Minister, to the Prime Minister, to inform them that to date, we cannot no longer work with Mr. Miller.
President of the National Congress of Trade Unions, Jennifer Isaacs-Dodson, says under no circumstances should the chairman of the BEC be allowed to influence and interfere with the negotiating process between the union and the corporation.
The BEW is sitting to the table with the Bahamas Electrical Corporation, and what happens at that table is binding once that industrial agreement is completed, signed and registered, and to simply ask the executive chairman to stay away from the negotiations and allow that process to happen without his intervention.
Now, the violation of the terms and conditions of the industrial agreement is not the only issue affecting the more than 800 plus electrical workers scattered across the country. Shop steward Michael Edgecombe says funding is also a major concern.
Our staff is very productive and very efficient. I want to say the decisions made by the chairman since he's been empowered as executive decision is costing the corporation millions of dollars. A bed for a new generation. So it's supposed to be done and ready for October of last year. Every day that bed is not completed, it's costing BEC $30,000 a day, plus docking fees.
Chairman of the Bahamas Electrical Corporation, Leslie Miller, spoke to ZNS News via radio this afternoon, just moments before heading back to Parliament. Mr. Miller says these allegations made by union members are not true.
It has been at least 3 or 4 months since the board has had discussions with the union with regard to flexi time as well as rostering. We indicated to them, and they have all the financial records of BEC. We had good, healthy discussions with them. The union needs to cooperate with management and the government and the Bahamian people. Failure to do so, we will have no choice but to send some people home.
LaDawn Davis, ZNS Network News.